Sounds good, Rick. Thank you for that. It is something we've all taken for pain, after a surgery, even to get a good night's sleep. But now, more than ever, those tiny little miracle pills known as prescription drugs are becoming easy traps for addiction. Andrea Lutz joins us now for a 7 investigation.
Idaho does operate a prescription drug monitoring program. However, there are still holes in our nation's system. While we have laws in place for prosecuting someone abusing prescription drugs, Idaho, like a number of other states, has not been able to adequately prevent meds from getting into the wrong hands. It's a deadly epidemic, starting with something so small, but growing into the biggest drug problem in the United States. Millions have admitted to using prescription drugs to get high.
It's in everybody's, cupboards and bathrooms. It's just so easy to get a hold of.
With no hard answers on how to regulate abuse, there's a struggle between keeping us healthy.
The majority of people who get these medications, in my mind, need them.
And keeping us safe.
If I take this, I should not be driving, that I am going to cause impairment to myself.
The Centers for Disease Control says sales of prescription drugs are 4 times higher than they were in 1999, and so are the number of deaths. This increase in pill abuse is now giving law enforcement agencies an added responsibility.
For me, that is the biggest epidemic here, I think, in the United States overall, is people abusing those types of medication and operating a motor vehicle. Hey, bud, come over here real quick with me. How you doing?
Officer Adnan Rudan is a drug recognition expert.
You been drinking tonight? Take any medications for anything?
More than ever, police like him are finding drivers tested for DUI.
Why don't you place your feet together for me? Your right foot in front of your left, touching heel to toe.
May also have one or more unprescribed pain medications in their system.
Just follow the tip of my finger with your eyes, okay? Not only do I feel like my job is also to go out there and take these people off the street to prevent, them injuring themselves or other people, but I think it's also for me to educate the public in the abuse of those types of drugs.
The halls of our schools are no different than the roads police patrol. Resource officer Darren Hurst finds himself walking the halls of Meridian High School, watching out for more than just alcohol or pot.
These kids will do whatever they want to do to get high, and they'll do to get high, and they don't care if they mix, match, or whatever else. They're no different than heroin in the wrong hands.
John Gann started to experiment with meds at the age of 12.
It's not as hard as, I guess some people might think. They can't x-ray for pain, you know what I mean? So it's kind of just all lies, and then that becomes a game too, right?
That game further fed his addiction.
When I was on them, I was on top of the world, or so I thought. And when I didn't have them, I was, a recluse and isolate, and I didn't want to be around anybody or anything or do anything. And I deviated so far off course that I was just lost.
After nearly 20 years of addiction, John found a path to recovery at the Walker Center of Boise. Jeremy Blades is a treatment specialist. He helps those like John overcome an addiction to a drug that seems like it should be okay.
Because it's prescribed by a doctor, it's something I should be allowed to take.
And it's easy.
Those triggers are always in their face, whereas something like methamphetamine, you usually have to more seek out or that kind of stuff, whereas you can just go home and see a pill bottle sitting on the counter and it's there and it's in your face.
It's that kind of temptation that leads to this deadly trend. The CDC says every day 100 people die from drug overdose in the United States.
Yeah, I think that's our senior picture.
Kevin Jameson is familiar with it.
The pain and just the sadness was just, it's overwhelming, and it still is.
His oldest daughter, 26-year-old Tasha, was given a prescription of oxycodone after a neck injury.
Tasha was really larger than life.
Soon, Kevin was seeing signs of misuse.
She did admit, she said, I'm a little concerned as well.
Tasha worked to get off the drugs, but then one night in October, Tasha was feeling sick, so she reached for the medication.
She was in some pain. She had not been taking her medication, went back to taking the level that she was at before, and it just overwhelmed her system.
That's when Kevin received a visit at his front door that no parent ever wants to get.
He had a tag on, and the tag said corner, and all I said to him is, which one? Because, I have 3 daughters. And then she passed away in the middle of the night.
Since the death of his daughter, Kevin has been pushing local lawmakers for reform. He says he won't stop until something is done.
I ask everybody to do something in their life to kind of honor Tasha and because Tasha's not going to be here to be able to do those things. And this is something I feel strongly about, and I want to be able to do it because I don't want another family to go through what we did.
The effect of prescription drug abuse is reaching many. Until there are better ways to regulate it, agencies across the country will have to work harder to stop abuse.
It's definitely an epidemic that as time goes, it'll get worse and worse.
So while law enforcement agencies see the abuse of prescription drugs as an ever-increasing epidemic, doctors get cornered on this issue because they're the ones handing out the pills to those patients that really need them.
So from the perspective of an emergency physician, it's really hard if we are expected to A, treat patients' pain, but B, not give them too much, or not send them home with anything that could possibly be abused later.
That was Dr. Kenny Bromwell, and he says there's been a big push in the last 10 years to track a patient's medical history in an effort to prevent doctor shopping. He also says doctors are not obligated to write prescriptions.
Well, families affected by the impacts of prescription drug abuse are being encouraged to start talking. And Kevin Jamison, who you saw in that piece right there, lost his daughter. He would love to hear from you. He set up an email address so you can go to ktvb.com to get that information.